What's going on, everybody? It's your boy G-Mai back in the house. Today we're going to talk about school in today's world from a high school student's point of view. It was actually something that was requested by one of my listeners. I actually had some time today to get to it, and it was a very interesting topic, so I'm going to go ahead and read what was sent to me. Pretty much it goes, "Hey G-Maya, can you do a podcast on school in today's world? Most old people tell us to stay in school and study hard. But today's world and the school system isn't designed for success. I feel it is designed to groom us for slavery for the rest of our lives. You wake up early in the morning and spend 7 hours learning is in quotation, something the world elites only want you to know. This gets us ready to incorporate what was taught in school to just serve in the real world. Quotations around real world. And if you question it, you will be looked at as a threat. We are never told the truth because I asked my history teacher about the Illuminati, the Freemasons, and the Vatican. He kicked me out because he claimed I distracted the class. But the mainstream media doesn't talk about it, and nobody speaks of it, which means there's something being hidden. What do you think about all that?" Well, pretty much, if you've listened, for anybody that's new to listening to a G-Maya's World podcast, understand that my mindset is a lot different than a lot of other individuals. If you listen to some of my videos, don't incorporate the same type of mindset because that's just me having fun. As far as level of education, knowledge of the streets, knowledge of people, knowledge of all kinds of life situations, the struggle, the good life, rich, poor, anything that you could think of, I've been fortunate to experience from from my life being threatened to, euphoria. So my aspect of this situation is actually very delicate. And like this gentleman says, it's something that I chose to do regardless of what comes with it. That's why people rather they rather listen to me in private and not let everyone know who I am. Because I pose a threat. And I understand that. And I've posed a threat since I've stepped on this scene. In this whole YouTube world, this podcast world, in my general life. Because I see things differently. The world does groom you to become what they want you to become. Don't ever misconstrue that concept. Modern day slavery is not a myth, but it's for everyone. I'm going to give you an example. This is an issue that I have. This gentleman touches on it a little bit. Pretty much you go to school to learn things that are filled with propaganda that you're taught to stay in line with what everyone else has already learned. Because if you learn anything outside of that box, you create an issue for people that don't want to deal with you. So the best way to do it is to teach you what your predecessors have already learned, because it makes it easier to make everything mainstream. We're in 2014, and we just really starting to understand the functionality of a hybrid and using hydrogen as a different source of fuel to get away from oil, because now we're starting to really complicate the economy. If this was done when it should have been done and wasn't being held back by certain propaganda, it would be a different situation. The reasoning behind why everything is shown and why things aren't shown is to keep the public in line. People have to understand, for a nation to be considered free, which none of us are, and I'm going to say that again, which none of us are, Edward Norton already exposed that. It's no way that you can monitor an entire country without spying. It's just now that it's more obvious and in your face that this is what they do to maintain it. Now, previous presidents have already said if you give up any type of liberty, then it can't be a democracy. But I do understand the reasoning behind monitoring what people do. It's a big world that you have to govern. But yet still in all, there should be limits on what people have access to. And pretty much the people have already rolled over and given the government everything that they wanted. So it's no way that you can now take that back at this point. As far as what the school and what everyone is grooming you to do, I never agreed with it. I have a lot of friends that are doctors. I have a lot of friends that are lawyers. that have student loans out the ass, while other friends that I have become entrepreneurs, have no debt, and are living the good life. So I asked my friends, was it worth it to go to Harvard to get that degree and to be so much in debt? Was it worth it to go to these Ivy League schools, the Columbias, and be so much in debt and not make a substantial amount of money to be able to cover that debt? The answer is always no. If I would have known what I know now, I wouldn't have done it the same way. But let's look further into that. Because if we don't have doctors and we don't have lawyers, what happens? Everything continues to be old. And this gentleman uses that word very wisely. What the old people want you to know. And it's not like the old people. Old doesn't mean like an old person. It just means old thinking. That's what it means. Because an old person doesn't have to generally have old thinking, but a lot of the people that are still dying off now are the old people that have those type of thoughts of, African American Negroes and other cultures, and that the Caucasian life and the Caucasian mainstream and their bloodline is what matters. That way of thinking is what made America. As much as America was the melting pot and it was brought together for religious freedom, at the end of the day, we have to all understand that the way the world is designed is not what was written. So you may have good teachers that will lead you to the right path to find the information that you seek, but it's not recommended for these teachers to do that if they want to keep their jobs. And we as a people have to understand that. The internet is there, and it's so many things that can be found out that's right in front of your face, but people don't take the time to look for it. They just go. They become sheep, and they follow through. Whether we believe it or not, that's not the issue. None of that matters. What matters is how you choose to live your life. Because say you don't want to go to school. Say you tell your parents you don't want a degree. A lot of parents are those old thinkers that want to send you to school, that want to make sure that you go in there and you achieve something else that they didn't. But you have to understand, you're the one that's going to be living with that debt. So you have to be able to understand that. And it's not like you can't go to school and learn what they're teaching you and still know that a majority of what it is not true. It's about learning how to play the game. Because at the end of the day, if you have a degree in something that you love to do, you can change the world the way you want to change it. You don't have to believe what is taught, but you have to adapt to your surroundings. That's the key. And I'm going to give you guys another example of what I mean. Rick Ross, for those of you that don't know, because my podcast is, it's all over the place. It's pretty much I believe it's in like over 60 countries now that is syndicated. So Rick Ross is an American rapper that was a CEO. It doesn't matter that he was a CEO because now he's a successful rapper and that's what people know him as. But the beauty of Rick Ross that people don't understand is that he had to pledge an oath to be a CEO, but he was still living a life that he wanted to live to get the result that he wanted. It wasn't as if he made up all this bullshit. But in being a CEO, it was genius. Because how can you dissect someone that's part of what you are? But you have to be able to adapt to your surroundings. You have to be able to sit somewhere and control yourself. That's the problem. And that's why I have an issue with a lot of African American Negroes, because they don't know how to control themselves. You have to know how to sit and shut the fuck up. Learn what is being taught to you and still be able to dissect it and understand why your thought process is not the same. Because no one is going to change their curriculum because 1 out of 10 students know it's a lie. It's not going to happen. But if enough people teach their children to understand, yeah, that's what's being taught, but research what really happened. Try to understand your history. that will change the world. The individual that goes about it and is brainwashed and thinks as if they're doing the right thing by learning exactly what is taught and taking that and going home, those are the individuals that continue to add to the old way of thinking. That's why that still exists. You have to understand that in order for a world to continue to go on, a world that was created not with many minorities and ethnic groups in mind, that this way of thinking has to be continuously pushed. But you can't attack it from every individual facet. You need more people behind you to do it. That's why separate organizations are built, for people to understand what goes on. That's why there's been so many, coup d'etat. It's been so many uprisings, because the people understand that they're being lied to. But at the same time, it's about how you act. You can't present what you have as factual evidence as an individual, because killing one person and removing one person is easy. The masses is harder. A lot of these things that you ask about, the Freemasons, the Vatican, the Illuminati, you don't need to worry about those things. What you need to worry about is how can you change what's affecting you, what's affecting your people. And the way to do that successfully is to adapt to your surroundings. You go to college, but you get grants. You don't need to go right away to a 4-year school and spend $40,000 a year. You go to a community college, spend 2 years, get one of their degrees, transfer for another 2. You start to beat people at their own game while maintaining your thought process. Because if you jump right in and do what everybody else does, you become them. The smartest way to attack is to be seen as who you are attacking. Digest that and understand that. You can't change the world by yourself, but you can spark the brain for change. And yeah, you're completely right. It is a system. It's a systematic way of thinking that helps the world turn. But if Steve Jobs believed what everybody else believed, he wouldn't have been able to accomplish what he accomplished. A lot of these things that go on, a lot of these people that come out, they don't believe the same things that we believe. But they infiltrate and they go through the process the same way you are expected to go through the process. So in your case, you don't have an uprisal against your social studies teacher. You listen to what he says. You can challenge him, but not in a violent manner, not in an adamant way to the way you degrade his authority. Because he has all right to do what he does, because he has to uphold his standards whether he believes it or not. He has to work. We all know we got teachers that'll tell us the truth, and we got teachers that'll just go with the system. 95% of the teachers are going to go with the system because they need to feed their families. So you can't fault them for that, because they are going along with what society has brought them. But if you want to be a free thinker, you research, then you attack. You don't find out a little bit of knowledge and just know that your way is different and attack, because that's not enough to be effective. Understand that the mainstream media is designed to keep us thinking about what they believe is easier for us to get through the days with. Today, as I speak right now, LeBron James is all that the media has been talking about for the last week. There have been over 100,000 evictions across the U.S. People have died. Wrongful murders. A lot of things have happened, but the media is only talking about LeBron James. It's up to the people to decide what they want to hear, what they want to view. Because as long as we accept it, why should they stop? But just because you're onto something and you're willing to be a free thinker doesn't mean you've grasped success. You haven't grasped success yet. You grasp success once you know what you're going to use that knowledge to obtain. What are you going to do with the fact that you understand at this early age that the world is a game that we have to learn how to play? I remember when I figured out that the world is a game and it's behind us. Once we understand the way the game works, it's up to us to play it the right way. Whatever your ethnicity, whatever you are, we all have advantages and disadvantages. But the world is what it is. It's not right for everyone, but a lot of people make a great living the way it is. You have to decide what's right for you. Don't worry about what everybody else is doing. Increase your knowledge to the point that when your time is called, you can explain your reason behind your thinking. I don't need to do much research into what I say to you today because my whole life has been research. The things I've done, the things that I've been involved with, people wouldn't even believe it. There's a lot of pain that I had to live through to understand that the world is set up to be designed to take the things that you greatly want. That's just the way it is. It's nothing else that you can do. It's as simple as that. Do not make the world affect you in that manner to where you feel that you need to lash out just because you want to lash out. You have to set a goal, set a path, and go right through it. It's a very difficult task once you understand that this life isn't fair. But if you're born a certain ethnicity, you know that from the day you come out of your mother's vagina. You're in for some shit. Think about it. How can you change what's existed for over 1,000 years? Until next time, one love.